I dig that intro. The music, it puts me in a good mood. It's like a zen type thing. But anyway, appreciate everyone being here for episode 26. We've got some good guests. As always, we've got Coach Rob. How you doing, Coach?
Hey, good morning, buddy. Thanks again for putting this show together. All of us deeply appreciate it.
Heck yeah. Well, it's time for some more MX Unfiltered. And who's better than to be unfiltered than the man that is sponsored by OnlyFans, Logan Karnow? How are you doing, dude?
I can't complain, dude. How you guys doing?
Hell yeah,
Thank you so much for joining, buddy.
We're doing great, dude. I know everybody wants to know how the heck your ankle is doing after getting freezed in here. You probably get tired of talking about that. Hey, but before we begin, you guys make sure you go follow Logan on Instagram. Try to support him the best you can. Even if you can, join his OnlyFans. But here, this just looks so gnarly.
Oh,
probably shouldn't even be showing it, but
dude, what's weird
dude.
is I filmed that surgery. It was, and he was just like, I'll just put a small incision in there and just pull the screw out. I'm like, all right, fuck it.
Oh, jeez.
It was strange, but yeah.
I just want to know what was going through your head right at when you knew that your ankle was turning backwards. Was the adrenaline just going? And as soon as you stood up, then you realized, oh crap, I'm actually really hurt. How did that all break down in your head?
Yeah, I mean, like as soon as it happened, I really had no idea that I was injured, because I think Vince obviously cut people off. Like such a misconception. Everyone thinks I just put Vince fully to blame here. I really don't. I sent him some messages that I posted. I don't know, it kind of blew up a little bit, but it was more the fact that he just does it to so many people and he makes so many bonehead moves. That's kind of what I was more pissed about. I mean, at the end of the day, I am hurt because kind of decisions, but whatever. So that caused me to straighten out when we were turning left, and Hunter Schlosser slammed into the side of me pretty hard. Obviously a full accident. But we were just sitting there, and I was like trying to get my leg out of it. Was stuck between like the fender and the front wheel. And I was like trying to wiggle it out. At that point, I had no idea. And then I looked down and I was like, holy shit, this is not supposed to be going this way.
Oh.
And somehow I stayed like super, super calm. I was like, well, I mean, freaking out right now is going to do nothing. The first thing I thought, I didn't even think about a dislocated ankle. I thought 100% I had bones sticking out of my leg, compound fractures, but fortunately it didn't end up being that. So they picked me up, took me over to the mule, whatever the hell you call it. Went back and they pulled my boot off, and fortunately, I guess it was only a dislocated ankle, and I broke my leg too. But I mean, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, no, dude, that was gnarly when I saw it. I mean, wasn't that even? Didn't he take out Hunter at first, and then it just kind of snowpiled, dominoed everybody, and then you were just.
I think it was kind of like Vince. I think had the whole shot, and when you have the whole shot, you got the wheel on people, so he started cutting over. And I think Hunter probably held it on a little bit too long. Maybe if it wasn't for Hunter holding it on a bit too long, I mean, I think we would have all been okay. I mean, he had a good start too, but those left-handed, the right-handed first corners are weird. Like you don't have full control of your rear brake and with your foot out, they're pretty dangerous in my opinion, because I think we saw multiple pileups that night there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I remember breaking it down a little bit too, and I was like, this isn't entirely Vince's fault. Vince had the wheel on everybody, but yeah, it's just ironic that when shit goes down, Vince is there. Because even during the whole Barsha and Jet Lawrence thing, Vince was there. During the red flag thing, Vince was there. Pretty much anything that's happened in World Supercross, Vince was there. So
even when it's not his fault, it's somehow still his fault.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe it would be different if AMA, Mike actually disqualified him once or gave a decent amount of a fine, some points or something to try to, hey, dude, we know this is how you race, but just hone it back a little bit. But that doesn't seem to be the case whatsoever. I mean, it's part of the series, not Feld, because they're not the ones in control of disciplinary actions, but AMA, it's their job to keep you guys safe. And if you have a guy out there that is willing to take risks and put other people in precarious situations, because Hunter, he's a factory guy. I'm sure your ego is, I can't even, your ego is this freaking big, right? And so you can't let Vince beat you. So you're going to leave it on a little bit longer. And then that decision kind of went and took everyone else out. But again, can't really give Hunter a bad time because you guys are making split second decisions inside of 0.1 millionths of a second.
Totally. Yeah. Just, chalk it up to a racing thing. I got the shit end of the stick, but
so have you had one surgery or multiple surgeries?
So that one main surgery that I had, which he kind of fixed everything, did the plate and all that stuff in one surgery. And then that second surgery was the one that we just showed on the screen, which was just a screw that just went through my tib, fib, and one of the main ligaments that I tore. He wanted it to, so you couldn't move it like side to side. He wanted to hold that in place for, I believe, 7 weeks or something like that. But yeah, just 2.
Johnny, something to think about when you look at Barsha's reputation coming up through the amateur ranks, hence the word Bam Bam, and the fact that when Barsha smashed into Jet, and a lot of the discussion points were around the idea that Barsha was concerned because Vince was behind him. Does that not give you some kind of an assessment of the magnitude that Vince has on everybody when even Bam Bam is worried about the fact that Vince is behind him in his rearview mirror?
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy when you think about it from that standpoint, because everybody used to be afraid of Bam Bam, and now Bam Bam's afraid of Vince.
So, I wonder what happened in that turn before that happened, because Bam Bam was definitely covering his line. He must have run it in there pretty.
He must have hit him pretty hard, yeah.
Oh, yeah, because he straight up was no stoppy into Jet. So
yeah,
he was doing the same thing. He was trying not to get freezed. So instead of getting freezed, he freezed somebody. But no, it's just, honestly, I give it up to Vince. In a weird way, I admire him because he's a dude that wasn't that fast, and then he slowly over the years has just gotten faster and faster and been able to get good starts and, be a top 10 guy, and in the 250 class, be top 5, sometimes top 3. So he's progressively gotten better. And the way he's had to progress is he's had to learn how to cover his line and, because he's not the fastest guy on the track and he's a little bit bigger of a dude. So therefore he's using that stuff to his advantage. And he's honestly got a better representation of Bam Bam than even Bam Bam for the stuff he's done, even going back to, I think the first start was, why can't I think of his name? Who should have been in the MMA? Logan, dude, Suzuki.
Oh, West.
Yeah, Weston Pike. Yeah. Dang.
That's still out so much, that incident. That was awesome. I'm here for it.
Yeah, dude. And Pike is monetizing that stuff even now, which is awesome.
To this day. Yeah.
And that's what's cool about the sport is that's why we need more guys like you, Logan, that are bringing a different vibe to the races, right? And that's cool that the sport is, letting you guys have some of this stuff more than what they used to do. But quick, I haven't talked to you before. How did you get involved with OnlyFans? Was it just a simple, hey, they're cheaper than Patreon and I want to be different kind of a deal? Or did you just know some OnlyFans girls and they gave you the idea to do it?
Yeah, so it's kind of a long story a little bit. So back in 2022, I was riding for some like local money. I was riding for Bubba Pauly's team, which was amazing. That was my plan for the season. And then this money dude came to me, is like, "Yo, I'll give you this much money. I'll pay for it." And I called Bubba. If true, I mean, obviously we can't. He was like, "You want to take the chance and do it? Do it." So I did. Beginning of the first few races were okay. He was pretty much doing everything that he said he was going to do. And then like by Daytona time, he went full MIA on me, turned the credit cards off that I was using to pay for my entry fees, gas. He gave me a van to use, ended up reporting the van as stolen. It was
Oh,
a
crap.
whole absolutely horrible situation. Like, I pride myself on just being cool to everybody. I feel like I have a very good name in the sport. Like, teams that I rode for in the past, they still got my back with everything that I do. So all that shit happened. So this was on like a Wednesday before Detroit Supercross back in 2022. And dude would not let me race the bikes for that race. So I went to my local dealership here in Ohio and bought a bike Friday before Detroit Supercross. I had a couple buddies come over, help me build the bike, take all the parts off the old bikes. Went there, did pretty well, kind of blew up in the sport. I made like a big post on social media explaining kind of what was going on. And then for the next race for Indy, there was a very successful OnlyFans girl. Her name is Hannah Ray. She still sponsors some people in the sport. And she reached out to me. She's like, hey, I'll pay you this much money if you put me on your shroud for the weekend. I was like, I mean, hell yeah, I got nothing really right now. So I did that, and nobody had ever really done that before. And it kind of blew up a little bit. Like, it kind of went all over like Racer X and Vital and Verb and, you know, all the places. And I don't know. And then after that, I was kind of known as the OnlyFans dude. A bunch of other OnlyFans girls started reaching out to me because she saw a huge upside to it. Because, you know, a bunch of horny motocross dudes see it pretty good. Check her out. So she sales that weekend. And then, yeah, a few other girls sponsored me that year. And my next year the plan was to kind of go ahead and take that same approach. But so I have an agent who's been helping me out quite a bit. He's like, well, why don't you just reach out to OnlyFans direct? I'm like, it seems like a bit of a stretch, but like, I found an email. I just sent a quick email. Next morning I woke up, like, their main marketing guy had followed me on Instagram, shot me a message on Instagram, emailed me back. And I had a big contract in front of me within 2 weeks of that email that I sent. So I was with them for 2023, and I'm with them for 2024, and hopefully with them for 2025.
Dang, dude. It's crazy how things just, I don't know, transpire. I'm sure in 2022, you never thought that you were going to be considered the OnlyFans guy, you know?
Hey, Logan, can I ask this question? And you don't have to give confidential numbers. Did the guy from My OnlyFans, was he able to quantify? You just mentioned that when the first person, when she helped you out, she said that she saw a bump in her numbers. Does the My OnlyFans, can they quantify, and do they share that number with you?
For at that point, it was just a deal between me and her. That was nothing to do with like the corporate company of OnlyFans.
And what did she say? What kind of a number bump she got? Because you said that she noticed that, hey, wait a second, I started this and I did get a bump. Any numbers?
Yeah, so she paid me. Fuck it. I'll just say she gave me $2,500 for just the one race to put me on the bike, and she saw her sales. She said they quadrupled for like those 2 days. You know, we were at the race. So
that's just so cool. Go ahead. Excuse me.
No, and then she like allowed. I was like, do you mind if I like kind of say that it helped you? Because then that could potentially help me, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, of course. So I was like, hey, she did this good. And then a bunch of people started reaching out to me. And like, I think that's, you know, kind of how sponsors should work. I was just on a Gypsy Tales podcast, and we kind of got deep into this. And he was like, it's super easy to keep sponsors if they see an upside to sponsoring you. Like, if they're not going to sponsor you if they see zero upside to it. So that's something that I pride myself on. All my sponsors, I try to do as best I can to promote them and make, you know, specific posts just dedicated to them, instead of just having a list of sponsors this big on every single one of my posts. But yeah, I feel like I'm kind of starting to get this shit figured out.
Well, I just think that that's a tremendous aha moment, because Johnny, you and I've talked about it. It's not that this is a double negative. It's not that there's not companies out there that want to get involved with the sport, but when it's difficult to quantify the return on the investment,
yeah,
of course, it's going to be difficult to get them to retain anything. So I love the fact that, and you could get all butthurt over the sensitivity of the subject, but here you are, you've got somebody who's like, hey, I'll give you $2,500. Hey, wait a second, I just picked up $10,000. That's a good ROI for somebody who's looking at cost benefit. Yeah, I'll renew for next year. And then the fact, and you don't have to share the numbers, obviously, but the fact that My OnlyFans themselves as a company came in and didn't just do it for one season, but has done it for 2 seasons. And like you say, hopefully extends it for 3. If that doesn't open the eyes, and Johnny, you and I've talked about this off the record, I find it so interesting when our sport particularly, inside the four walls, it's the same sponsors for pipes and gear and goggles and lubricants and all that goes into it, right? And everybody's crying the blues. Can't make any money. Can't make any money going racing. I'm like, well, then why does everybody keep trying to fish from the same pond? Why are we not going outside and getting it? And you've got somebody
100%.
who's outside the sport that said, hey, if I may reiterate what you said, quadrupled the investment dollars in one weekend. Who's not interested in that? That's like a no-brainer. So the fact that you're able to get quantification, I'm hoping for you allows you to be able, Logan, to go to somebody else and say, hey, look what I did for her. Look what I did for, a goggle company. Because unfortunately, I don't see it on this side with the sponsorship that we do as a company. Most people are just sitting there with their hand out. Nobody's really willing to help us understand what we get for that investment of time and dollars. So good on you, man. That's awesome. When will you know if your contract's extended?
I haven't reached out yet, but I'll probably reach out to them here in the next couple months and hopefully start.
Well, honestly, dude, like in a weird way, what happened to you as far as your injury, as far as social media goes, that's all really, really good content. And the comeback story and everything. It's just unfortunate with the medical bills that you have on top of that as well. But it's all about a numbers game. Like I've read a couple books on marketing for YouTube, and so what I learned was a lot of people that used to be into big promotions with, let's just say, for Supercross, you've got the commercials in between the racing action, right? Those spots are incredibly expensive, and they come to Feld and AMA and Supercross. They go, hey guys, this is our numbers. This is what we get. But you and myself and coach and the Deegans, their numbers are pretty comparable to what they're getting on TV. And so it is literally not even an eighth of the cost to promote to that kind of demographic. So a lot of advertisers, once they figure out that, hey, it honestly is more beneficial to sponsor one of the riders that's posting in between because they're getting fairly good viewership, but we're not having to throw out $250,000 for a commercial spot kind of a thing. And they see a better return on investment. But a lot of people don't see that. And in every motocross company that I talk to, they don't get that. I feel like this industry is stuck in like a bubble. They don't see the bigger thing as far as outside sponsors with, it doesn't even need to be moto related. OnlyFans with their athletic program can kind of be moto related, but talking about Manscaped and like VPNs and things that people use all the time as far as Amazon marketing or something, it's things that us as consumers, we pretty much all use, whether it's Android or whatnot, but it doesn't have to be so, hey, this is a motocross boot or VP fuels or lubricants or something. It doesn't have to. You can have different sponsors that I don't know. Okay, that's my
no, you're right on the money, Johnny, and take it one step further. I'm just going to ask you guys a question, and I'm not trying to create a shitstorm at all. When you guys are watching the Supercross and there's like 6 ads for pharmaceutical drugs that are completely like out in left field, does that not strike you as odd? I mean, if you understand it from a business standpoint, obviously those are national sales dollars that are going through NBC, and those ads are trickling into the Supercross as part of a blanket buy. I think most everybody understands that. Like, I think most people understand if you're watching a ball and stick sport, there's going to be ads that are sold at a national level that are going to come across your TV, and there's going to be ads that are sold at a local level. I understand that when we're looking at, all right, NBC is obviously a worldwide network, but I'm like, talk about a huge disjoint between what the product is they're promoting and who's sitting on the other side of the TV screen. For myself, I would never invest the money in an ad because this is just me, and I want to know if you guys agree or disagree, and I'd be curious to see what the chat has to say. If I'm looking to put money into an advertisement on or during a race, I'm always looking at what other companies are advertising. For myself, when I see some pharmaceutical ad come up, that's when I walk out of the room and go use the restroom or refill, right? I just don't even begin to understand, like, why would I want to spend money when the viewer is already turned off because this ad is not even relevant to what Supercross is? Go ahead, Johnny.
You make a good point because in this book that I read on marketing, it said that they're not as effective anymore because
Mm-hmm.
once you have a commercial on the television, what do people do? They pick up their cell phone and they
Mm-hmm.
start looking at Instagram or whatnot. But then if I come across Logan's page and he's got an insert ad for OnlyFans, I'm going to continue to watch it because I don't know. I don't have a third device to then put his down to then go watch something that doesn't have ads on it.
Yeah.
And it's just it's not a forward way of thinking. You know, there's that saying that if you don't innovate, you get left behind. And we're starting to see the sports somewhat innovate, but we're still way far behind when it comes to yeah, just some other sports for that matter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Go
that's
ahead, Logan.
that's a super good point because like I kind of made this theory. I was like, okay, say I, which I don't have to hear the social following of some of these guys, say I make a post and, for this company that gets 50,000 views. 50,000 people is probably more than most Supercross events even has. So that's basically showing every single person in that stadium, what they want to see. And like, you can really, I feel like kind of market that because it's just crazy. Like if you really, really think about how many people that is.
And what I think is so cool about it is you're getting 50,000 views and that's being funneled through one person. Because my attraction is to your account and seeing your racing and your bike setup and your gear and all that. Now I feel like you and I are on a one-on-one communication level. Out of those 50,000 views, probably 50-60% of the people feel the same way. So think about the effectiveness of the ad, which
Right.
then takes it to a whole new level. So I don't know. I think we could sound like we're beating a drum here that, oh, the marketplace has changed. Yeah, well, I understand that. What I just don't understand, and Johnny, we talked about this in the show last week. I don't understand why the promoters and the TV personnel, how stupid do they think we are as consumers of info? Like the fake empty bottle of the energy drink. The fact that first it started with the label need to be turned out, then it had to be open. Then if you notice now, everybody has to take a swig before the camera goes away. Every person does the same thing. The only one that doesn't do it is the Lawrence brothers. They'll hold the can, but they don't drink. I haven't talked to Lucas Myrtle about this, but I would guess Lucas is don't do what everybody else does. Just like if you look at every PC guy and you look at Cooper Webb, every single time he takes a breath, he's just looking for a way to say, I'd like to thank the man above. And then he goes down his whole speech list of all the sponsors. And all of us we're all tapped out. We're like, whatever, heard it, been there before. Jet Hunter, never mentioned Honda, never mentioned Quad Lock, never mentioned Yoshimura, never mentioned HRC. But we all know their sponsors, Alpine Star, the whole 9 yards.
When Brian Deegan talks, you tend to pay attention because of the platform that they have built. They're the new wave of everything going on. And he said something along the lines of, with his son, little Deegan, saying that you shouldn't have to just list off all of your sponsors because that's not like retention. Everyone does the same thing. It's almost the same thing when the podiums come on. People are like, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Like, I don't need to hear this speech here. But if Deegan is up there, you're going to not go to the bathroom. You're going to listen to what he has to say because he's probably going to say either something stupid or something that is a little bit spicy. And for that reason, you're going to look more at him and him on the bike, and you're going to see the sponsors that are on his motorcycle and see some of the stuff that he does off the track with that stuff. He doesn't physically have to say those guys on the podium, which I think people don't understand either.
Yeah. Well, and then this goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier. I think the sponsors need to recognize, and we get it, right? Everything flows downstream. If Monster is giving money to Logan and Monster says, I don't care how stupid you look or feel, we want to see you drink from that can, Logan's going to do it, which then makes Logan look like a goofball. But what's he supposed to do? He doesn't want to look dumb. Like he doesn't want to say, hey, Rob thinks I look silly if I do that, so I'm not going to do it. Screw you, Rob. I'm getting paid X amount of dollars I get it. I totally understand it. But the sponsors need to realize that we as consumers look at it and go, poor Logan's being forced to do something that he doesn't want to. Doesn't make me more inclined to buy the product. In fact, I look at it and go, you're pretty much making these guys jump through hoops because you're supposedly the ones with the checkbook. And it's just like, why? Why do you do that? Like, if I were able to buy a dirt bike today, I'd buy a Yoshimura pipe because of Big E, Eric Bartolis, who runs or is the product rep at Yoshimura. Just like back in the day, people would be very loyal to Scott because of Bevo, right? Now he's moved over. I think he's over at 100% now or whatever. People don't realize how a person becomes the brand, and then the way that the end user has to promote it. There needs to be some level of like it naturally integrates. When it seems very awkward and odd, it actually has a negative impact on moving product and creating loyalty. And I don't know, like you said, Johnny, I don't know why our our industry continues to. I don't know, is it like a
It's
1987?
changing. It's
You got
changing.
like, and it's just like all of their interviews are. You already know exactly what 90% of the dudes are gonna say before. So I don't know. I like people with a little bit of personality, and like you said, Deegan, love him or hate him, like you want to watch his interviews because you don't know what you're gonna get, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you make a good point. Is even if you hate somebody or you dislike them, you're still paying attention to them because
Yeah.
you're probably wanting to see them fail to some extent. You know, as far as like fans go, that's what we do. I know when I watch fights, there's always one dude I'm rooting for and one dude I'm not rooting for, right? And that's just how it goes. But I'm still watching it. So you make a good point with Deegan. Love him or hate him, and man, if you can convert somebody from, hey, I don't like Deegan to then all of a sudden I like you now, well, now you're going to be a much more loyal fan. And that's one of the things that I feel like people don't understand about social media is you're supposed to give an argument so that people can disagree with you. Because if somebody does agree with you, they end up becoming a really good, they're defending you. And if somebody is arguing against the point, it's now arguing against their point. So it's an interesting dynamic, but it has to do a lot with philosophy. But here, Logan, I noticed that your OnlyFans is free, and you said you sell a lot of merch. Is that because of what you have set up with Direct, the company of OnlyFans? And I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, my merch has nothing to do with OnlyFans. It's just something I did a couple years ago, and it's kind of taken off. Like I had a merch shop a couple days ago, and it's going amazing. Like it's just really good, you know, extra money to have in your pocket, and it's so fun. Like I did this whole merch drop myself. Like I have a little, I have it all sitting right here, like a little label maker, my mouse, and a little laptop, and that's pretty much it. And I sit here for 5 hours straight and just pack orders, and it's fun to me. It's like humbling to see how many people like want to buy my merch. It's cool.
Well, props to you, man, because it just goes to show when someone says, "Oh, Logan got lucky and got this sponsor or that sponsor." Johnny and I say it all the time. Luck is where hard work meets opportunity, and unfortunately, that's one of the things that annoys me when we get a request for sponsorship, whether it's
Hey,
for
that's the hoodie you're wearing.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. And did you lay that out and design it yourself?
I kind of, so there's a guy, his name is, his business is Desk Ridge Tattoos. He's based out of Kentucky. He's like a very successful like tattoo artist. And yeah, I kind of just give him some ideas and he throws some cool stuff together for me. And then I have a guy up in Michigan. He prints some stuff for me and ships it to me.
Well, like Isaac said here in the chat room, you're a hustler. You're somebody that goes and makes stuff happen. And I just think everybody in the sport can benefit from it. And if you guys haven't listened to Jeff Stanton on David Pingree show, talk about the idea that, Logan, you're epitomizing what Jeff's talking about. Is it just takes work. You've got to lean into the work, not shy away from it. Whether it's like you said, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it wasn't like you grew up getting a computer science degree, but here you are doing artwork and merchandise. It's cool.
Yeah, there's so many people that I feel like in the sport, so many privateers are just like all poor me. All I make is the night show money. Like, yeah, it's because you're fucking lazy. Like you're not on the trying to find sponsors. Like if you want to build a very good program, which I feel like I have, I mean, you got to call 7 gear companies, see what sponsor will give you the most gear plus bonuses plus salary, whatever. So there's 7 people you got to call right there just for gear. And then, exhausts, and then even down to like little brake pads and handlebars. And like, it's a lot of work. Like people don't realize, like, they just see me sitting in the pits with my bike, and I mean, dude, it's months of work just to build my little program, let alone the big teams. I can't even imagine that. But yeah, I literally do everything myself. I have an agent who does help me with like some connections and stuff like that. But other than that, I'm pretty much a one-man show. I got my mechanic helps me like drive to the races and stuff. With a little bit of extra money that I've been making, I've been able to fly to the races for the first time in my entire life last year. So that was pretty nice. But no, it's cool, man. I do feel like I work hard, and I appreciate you guys noticing that.
Well, hey, let me ask you this. Hold on, Johnny. I'm sorry. Just out of curiosity, did you contact the agent or did the agent contact you?
So he is a good friend of mine from here. He's
okay.
He used to work for KTM. He's just one of the best people that I know, and he's got all the connections, and he's helped me out tremendously.
That's got to make you appreciate it more when you come from driving to all the races and you're eating shitty food and you're sleeping in a van and then finally once things start kind of rolling for you, you tend to appreciate it more rather than not putting words into other people's mouth. But I've heard interviews from guys that are getting burnt out of the sport when they're at the highest level. Well, yeah, they've got struggles because with money brings more problems. However, it also takes care of a lot of things, you know, to where you're flying to the races, you've got somebody packing all your gear and everything is there when you need it. You come back, you got people, your program is just fine tuned and you just have to kind of just show up and be disciplined to show up. You're not like, hey, I wish I could spend more time training, but instead I'm looking for sponsors and I'm trying to pay these bills and I got to look for my flights and whatnot.
Yeah, 100%. Makes you appreciate it more. I feel like when you do a lot of this stuff yourself, when you're a factory guy, I'm sure you get obviously you're a little bit more spoiled, but those guys, I feel like some of those guys got to appreciate what they got a little bit more. Like you'll never have to stress money a day in your life, and you know, even if you go out there and get a third that night, you're still gonna be okay. There's more to life than just winning a race, you know.
Well, I think the cool part about it is, like you just mentioned, you being able to fly to the race felt like you were on a red carpet ride. You remember those 11, 12-hour drives. Now it's a 2-hour flight. You're like, heck yeah, man, this is awesome. And I think when you look back to somebody like a an Alex Martin, you know, living out of a box van, I think it was him and Filthy Phil,
Yeah.
you know, not knowing if they're going to have enough gas to get to the next race. And like Johnny said, you know, eating ramen noodles because that's all you can afford. And then to get to that factory level, and you talk to some of these managers and you talk to some of these mechanics, and you can see the difference in what they go through when the rider shows up and appreciates the fact that the bike is there, the bike is clean, the truck is there, because they remember, like you're talking about, Logan, you're doing the driving, you're doing the mechanicking, you're trying to figure out where's the next dollar going to come from. And when you are working for somebody who appreciates it, and I know talking with quite a few people in the industry, it's very frustrating when a lot of these kids come in through a pay-to-play program where everything has always been paid for. It's almost like the kids are difficult to work with because they're like, well, I'm paying for this program that I'm on. Now I'm marketing it as if I'm sponsored, which is kind of funny in our sport, right? How many kids do we know at the amateur level in the first year at the pro level, grandma and grandpa are still paying for them to be on that program? The point is the athlete becomes cocky and almost like, I'm paying to be on this team, so you're working for me.
Yeah.
Not realize that's so distorted. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Logan.
That he starts to believe it.
Yes.
Paying for
Yeah.
it.
Well, and so many people like to go out there on social media and say, I'm sponsored. And then you get to the root of it and you realize that there's a lot of pay to play programs out there. I don't have a problem with the pay to play program because we talked about this on the show. That's what's going on. You know, the Formula One model has permeated into the MXGP arena, and we're seeing it come over here. I don't have a problem with it, but just state what it is. Don't go out there and make it sound like, oh, I'm such a great rider, I got to ride over Logan because I'm better than him. When the truth of the matter is, I just have a wealthy family member that's paying for me to be on this team. So now I'm going to talk down to Logan in the pits because I'm on out of a factory rig. Come on, man. You're paying your way to get there. Somebody's paying for mine.
Yeah. It's
no
like
transparency.
Cool factor. I feel like when you're under the semis and stuff, obviously it looks cooler, but
Yep.
you know, paying fucking $40,000 to be on that team.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And people don't realize that. That's where I get a little bit fed up with the little cocky shits that walk around like they're somebody. And I'm like, dude, you're just a spoiled kid that your grandparents are paying for it. And what's astounding to me is when you really get into the deep weeds, you realize that grandma and grandpa have been paying for this since they were on super minis, right? They're saying that they're a certain colored rider sponsor when really grandma and grandpa's paying for them to be on that program and did it their entire amateur career.
Yep.
So I want some of the parents to realize when you're racing against somebody and they say they're sponsored, do a little bit of due diligence. And there's very few, especially nowadays. It's not like when we had the Suzuki program when Cole Gress had, a half dozen Eli Tomac's, Ian Treadles, those guys. Jason Anderson was on that program as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's comparison is the theft of joy. I think that's the problem with the pits between the haves and have-nots is the have-nots are always thinking that the grass is greener on the other side, but they don't realize that the grass is greener on the other side that's fertilized with bullshit. That's why you need to go do your own due diligence to find out what programs are actually worth a damn. And Logan, just totally uncandid, unfiltered, you don't have to answer. As far as everything that you're making, are you able to make a living paying your bills with a little bit of excess? And is most of that money coming from the purse money, or is it coming from your merch? Where is it coming from? You don't have to give real numbers. You could be as vague as you want.
Yeah. It's pretty life changing. Like OnlyFans is unbelievable. Like it's legitimately like life changing what they're doing for me. And then obviously you got the purse every weekend. My merch does pretty well, and yeah, dude, like I don't want to come across sounding cocky or anything, but I know 100% I'm making more money than a lot of Factory 250 guys right now. Like,
love it.
It's literally unbelievable. Like I was that guy, 2 or 3 years ago that simply relied on the purse money, and because I was kind of lazy. Like I rode for some teams, like they were great, but I just didn't make money. And then with this whole thing that happened to me when I was riding for that dude and he completely fucked me over, like it was literally the best thing that ever happened to me. It was like a complete blessing in disguise. And I fell into this OnlyFans gig, and I actually saw that guy at a local track who fucked me over, and we got into like a little screaming match back and forth. I don't have any, like, I guess I do still have hard feelings because I just like, he's just such a piece of shit human being.
Yep.
I just don't even know how you can like treat somebody like that. So I went up to him and I was just being a complete dick, and I went up and like I tried shaking his hand. I was like, hey, I just wanted to thank you like for making me quite a bit more money. And he was like, fuck you. And then I just oh, sorry.
What was his explanation for why he ghosted you like that?
Oh, he just claimed I was in the wrong with every single thing I did. I got a text about this big. I have a lawyer. I sent it to my lawyer. And she was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, I don't fucking know. It was just a whole thing.
Well, and the reason why I say that is if that's a case that you didn't, fall short on your responsibilities, is it illegal to blow him out? And the reason why I say blow him out is because I don't want somebody else to get kind of duped into the same bullshit that you've gone through.
Yeah, I definitely blew him out pretty good on social media. They had like an Instagram page. It was called Moto Zone. I think their Instagram page is actually still up. In their last post that they made, it was like, we went out on good terms, or I don't know what it was, but it was like, you can shoot us an email if you want to know more about what happened in the story. And all of my friends, my sponsors, I'm like, just flood this email. Like, I want to hear what he has to say. Nobody got an email back from him. So it was just a load of crap. They just wanted to make themselves look cool on Instagram. Pretty lame gig, but ultimately it worked out amazing.
Yeah. Like Johnny and I always say, something good comes out of everything. You just don't always see it immediately. Some things you do, but some things you don't. So
absolutely.
It's in the midst of chaos, there's opportunity, but it's up to the individual to realize what kind of opportunity comes from this. And Logan, if that did not happen, with the craziness happening, do you think it forced you to be like, oh man, dude, like, what do I do? What do I do? And then you start looking for stuff happening, and then boom, here's this opportunity. But that came because you were panicking and you were motivated to make something happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was like I said, it happened on a Wednesday. So I talked to my lawyer that when it kind of happened, and he's like, if you don't have the van back, so I'm in Florida at the time, I'm riding down there, and he's like, if you don't have the van back to me in 72 hours, the cops are going to be called. I'm going to report the van as stolen and all this shit. And I'm like, I mean, the dude probably already reported the van as stolen. If I get pulled over, I'm going straight to jail. It don't matter what I say. The van is stolen, technically. So we kind of had a good idea that kind of, I don't think he really thought we were going to do this, but me and my mechanic, we're just like, fuck it. Like, why don't we'll leave the van at my buddy's house. We'll tell him where it is. I gave him
There you go.
Went and rented a fucking big like U-Haul, the thing. I wanted to just get a small one, but the only one that they had was like 30 something foot. So we're driving down the highway with 2 bikes in the back and all my stuff and a big old U-Haul, and showed up in Detroit with that. And no, it was just like a kind of a feel good story, I guess, and I kind of gained like a little following just from that. And yeah.
Well, there's something to be said. Like that's again, social media is awful for showing like, hey, it must be nice. It must be nice. You blew up overnight. It must be nice, right? But retention can happen once, but it's up to the individual to continue to provide for everyone. And there's a lot of hard work that goes behind, and a lot of guys that make a living making it look like they just jack off all the time and they're not really doing anything. They have no idea what actually goes on behind the works.
Yeah, I feel like I am that guy. Like if you were to go on my social media, like I just look like I fuck off all the time. But yeah, behind the scenes, I put in the work. I just, like, if I'm on a run or I'm on a road bike ride, like, I don't know, like the people that follow me, they don't give a fuck what I'm doing. They think it's cool if I posted a picture, you know, having a beer with Roxanne or something like that. I don't know, just like stupid shit like that. But yeah, I don't know. My following, I think, is a bit different than most people in the sport.
But that's what's so awesome is it's a unique following.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just because people like moto, it's what you do uniquely in supercross, motocross. And, you know, it just goes without saying you've made something unique and you authentically being yourself. And I don't think anybody in the chat room would argue with us. We like Johnny preaches about it in every one of his shows, you know, be yourself, be authentic, whether it's being a dickhead or whether it's being, you know, poly pure, just be yourself.
Well,
you know,
there's a saying that being different is better than being better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it makes that's why I tell so many people, like, originality is undetected plagiarism, right? Is when you have a good idea, people just steal it. But the problem is it always comes back to the original creator, because they are not the original creator. They can put their spin on stuff, but that's just how social media works. And that's what I like to try to help with the sport with, is just like, dude, almost give everything away for free, because it comes back tenfold on stuff.
Right. Well, you also have to clarify what is it that you're giving away for free. You know, Johnny, in your, like, with if you think of the genesis of your YouTube channel, what was it that got it off the ground? It was riding tips, and you're giving forward your best information. And I think that's another mistake that I shouldn't say it's a mistake. I think
teach. Remember that.
Say it again.
Those who can't do teach. I'm making a joke because I don't race anymore. Yeah.
Well, but nobody was putting a gun to your head demanding that you give away your knowledge, taking time out of your day to get a video camera set up, to shoot the video, to edit the video, to post it, upload it, respond to comments the way you do so consistently. And I think that's the part that I think you see a consistency in the vertical of character. Someone who's willing to go out and give all the knowledge that there is to, you know, you could even go so far, that's kind of a textbook cliche, but give people what they want, sell them what they need. What people want to do is be safer and faster on a dirt bike. Now, if they need a little bit more help getting there, well, that's where They can hire you, fly you out, bring you in as a riding coach, but you've already proven the proficiency of your knowledge. And that's, like you say, a lot of people are full of knowledge, but don't know how to convey it. Then there's people that do a lot of talking and don't say anything. Nothing was better exemplified
Quick
than that this
segue,
week.
Logan. The chat is wondering, why do you just choose Supercross rather than motocross?
Get ready, boys.
Because to be honest, I don't think sponsors really they don't really care that much about outdoors. I know at least my deals don't. Like, I'm not going to get paid any more to race outdoors than I would Supercross only. It's more expensive to go racing. You make less money. You blow your bike up every race or two. And yeah, I mean, as a privateer, really don't make a whole lot of sense.
Why is it more expensive to go racing?
Because it's much harder on your bike.
Okay, just asking for the fans, you know, because yeah, you're literally riding 2 30-minute motos, plus qualifying, and depending upon what kind of conditions there are, if it's total mud or anything, yeah.
And then you also have to take into consideration how many Supercross races are within a 20-minute drive of the airport versus an outdoor national that could be 2 hours outside of town. That's a thing that I hear quite a bit.
I didn't think about that. That's a good point. And just Supercross is so easy on your bike. Like, I mean, after a full day of racing, like, you could damn near spray it off with a hose for the most part. Maybe not this year. This year's been crazy. I
on open stadiums.
Shit, dude. Like, I picked a good year to get hurt. For one, with how back to 450 classes, and for two, every single race damn near has been a motor. And my bikes look pretty good sitting in the garage right now.
Well, that's another segue too, is with your gigs that you have with sponsorship set up, why is it that you went for 450 rather than 250?
So I've been racing 250 like my whole career. I've been pro since like 2015. And I've made plenty of main events. I mean, in 2019, 20, and 21, I barely missed any main events on the 250s. And then jumped to the 450 class halfway through the 2022 season and started making main events, and those paychecks were a little bit nicer. I mean, now obviously that they're actually pretty close, but I don't know. I like riding the 450.
It's easier to maintain as well, you know?
Yeah. I actually do have a motor in my 450 this year. It's my first time in my life that I got a motor in my 450, but yeah, it's good.
What kind of work would you have done on a 450 motor?
So ECU and just some top end work stuff, just like port and polish. And I'll be honest, dude, I'm not even 100% cams.
No, that's fair. Yeah, no, that's fair. And I've said this to Johnny, I'm just amazed at how fast these bikes are. And I'm always curious what you guys are wanting. You know, what characteristics are you wanting to pull out of a bike? It's not always what we think as viewers, even though we all enjoy riding. You guys are you look at things so minutely different that it's cool to hear you say that I've got some motor work done. It's amazing how Johnny even mentioned this last week, how the ECU is at the backbone of, I mean, we all know that intuitively, but how you can just drop boatloads of money on that ECU is kind of crazy.
Well, horsepower doesn't win races, right? It's a usable power that helps.
Exactly. That's what it is. Like a stock KX 450, I feel like is so snappy, but like when I got my motor back, it just like more moved the power around. Like you said, more usable power. And yeah, it's awesome.
Do you potentially have any dyno numbers? Because I know I know
I don't. I just,
it doesn't really matter.
Motor parts to him, and then my buddy's dad in Florida put it all together, so it was never dynoed.
Well, it's a pain in the ass to dyno stuff because you got to get a different rear wheel on. You got to get this hard ass road race tire to go on there. And honestly, a dyno is somewhat hard on the motor to test it well. That's brings my point that I'm thinking about here. What the heck am I trying to think here? Race gas. Do you run race gas?
I do, yeah. Not
full,
but when I race, I'll run Pro 6.
Okay, just full, no half and half or anything. Just
usually just full Pro 6. Only on race days though. On practice days, we'll mix it a little bit, or just run pump gas. I've been starting to ride a little bit, and I just run 93.
What about when you come to like altitude, someplace like Denver? Still full blown race gas.
Yeah, that's weird because isn't some of the fuel almost a disadvantage to run at elevation?
Because there's less oxygen, so you're basically flooding the motor with too much fuel. It can't get enough, so you're honestly bogging the motor down. I know some of the race teams that I've talked to, who knows if they tell me the truth, but they're like, hey, we almost just run pump up here because the motors can't take it.
Have you guys ever rode at elevation?
So I live here, and I know on the dyno, if I put,
he's in Colorado.
Yeah, I'm in Colorado. So mile high, 6,000 feet or so. And the numbers come out to be about like at sea level, you get about 18% more power.
It is
just because
insane, the difference with riding up there.
It's insane. The 450s feel more like 350s, 250s ish. But
first gear, I have to run a lot of first gear.
Yeah, no, 100%. Starts are difficult, especially tracks like Lakewood that are just straight up. A lot of teams struggle with it. But what's also funny is the motor struggle, but then also the riders struggle, because Lakewood ended up having a couple night races because they were just like, oh, it's too hard on the body. People are getting like heat exhaustion. I'm like, dude, it's 70 degrees. There's no way. Definitely riding down at Tennessee or Florida or something is way harder. Texas, someplace where it's hot and humid, but people complain more about this stuff. And that's why it goes back to one of the reasons as to why I believe Tomac is so good as far as beast mode, where he doesn't just all of a sudden drop the hammer and then become 3 seconds a lap faster. What ends up happening is everyone starts slowing down and he just stays the same. So it looks as if he's riding faster, but no, he's just continuing the pace because of how good a shape he's in. And part of that is because it's like legalized EPO cheating, is because he lives at Cortez, Colorado, which is 6,500 feet. And then he comes down to sea level and he's got this, blood oxygen level that's above everyone else. So it's essentially, EPO.
Well, and to give people a little bit of insight what it feels like to be at 6,500 feet, take a straw, put it in your lips, and then put a clothespin on your nose and go out and race. Go as fast as you can on the motorcycle. That's what it feels like at altitude, because there's such a low level of oxygen in the air. That's why we have that mantra, as you said, Johnny: train high, race low. And then when you get into something like heat and humidity, what a lot of people don't realize is humidity. And this is, I'll get somebody that doesn't like me will say something snide in the comments area, but humidity is a percentage of moisture in the air. Well, when you think about skin wicking away heat through sweat, well, now you have water that meets water, and sweat cannot evaporate against another molecule of water. So you get what we refer to as a water blanket. That's why it seems so much hotter when you're in a humid environment, because you've got a heat blanket that's keeping the internal heat in. That exothermic process, your body's not able to rid itself of heat. And we're just like a motor. The hotter we get, the slower we go. So like you said, Johnny, you compound that. If it is hot and you're at altitude, I mean, I know the humidity is not any, like, what's your relative humidity in Colorado? It's got to be 20, 30%.
Yeah, 10-ish or
Yeah,
so.
even lower. Yeah. So see, like
right now it's at 32.
Yeah.
At least what my Garmin is saying. But
see, with us, it's going on 11 o'clock. It's 81 degrees here and we have 92% humidity.
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock here, 52 degrees. I'm at 7,000 feet and I'm at 32% humidity. And part of that deal is, like, when I was living in Arizona, my VO2 max was 58. And I've been here for a month and now my VO2 max has gone down to 53.
Yep, that makes sense. Now, what's interesting is you go back down and you get the tail of the snake. You're not going to feel the benefit to it. Before you had the proliferation of EPO, that's why they would go and do training camps for 3 to 6 weeks at altitude, and then you come down, but you've got to have a period of time before you actually race, because you've got to reacclimate to some other variables. But yeah, it's a crazy science behind it. Now, if you take somebody who trains at altitude, like a lot of the endurance athletes, and you're on a EPO, corticosteroid, HGH, testosterone cocktail, that's kind of the magical cocktail at altitude, and then you come down to sea level, That's when you see incredible performances that seem almost too good to be true. Johnny, I know with you kind of segueing into triathlon, did you see this past week a couple of the female Kenyan runners actually got popped for EPO? And
Honestly,
one
I
of the
didn't know.
ladies from Kenya that got popped, she actually got sixth at the Tokyo Olympics. So stop and think about it. If you know somebody who's on EPO, a full cocktail, gets sixth at the Olympics, what does that tell you about the top five? You know, and people go, "Oh, you're just on a witch hunt." No, dude, use common sense. If you understand the percentage of improvement, and you guys can all Google it, there's a ton of clinical studies that are easy to read. Google, how much does EPO improve athletic performance? Because in our sport, people go, well, why would somebody take EPO? Well, it's like doubling the size of your oxygen carrying capacity. It's, I mean, it's a big bore kit on steroids. You know what I mean? Yeah, we're going to
Yeah.
use it.
How much would you like to have your first lap be kind of your last lap? I mean, there's a lot of training that goes involved in there,
Absolutely.
but it makes you to the point where you can continue to push. And that's why those things like Procrit
Yep.
are amazing. Yeah, it's like $1,200 a month, but it's
Well, but if your bonus on the
amazing
weekend's
stuff.
100,000 and you're paying 8 to 10,000 a month, I don't know about you, but if I can make 300-400 grand in a month on bonuses, that 10 to 12 grand a month is
Yeah.
no big deal.
And Coach, I know we're getting into some weird conversations because like the EPO is great for during the race, right? And then
No, it's great
testosterone
for
and
recovery as well.
oh, see, I didn't know it was as good for recovery. I know like growth
Yeah,
and testosterone, those things help out quite a
no.
bit with.
There's a you guys can Google this. There was, unfortunately, she committed suicide. Nina Kraft, if you look her up, she won Ironman Hawaii one year, and she's always been a very good long distance athlete. But then one year at Hawaii, she came out and she just, it's what we call burning hot. And she didn't use a lot of judgment. She went out and just completely annihilated everybody on the bike. And, it's one of those situations. If a performance seems too good to be true, it probably is. And she got popped for EPO. And a buddy of ours, unfortunately, lost his life. He got run over by a car on his bicycle on a way to a group ride. And we were at the celebration of life. And I just asked Nina point blank, because I was new into coaching full time, and EPO was kind of something that it was almost kind of like a dark alley type of subject. If you were doing something like that, it's kind of like early bodybuilding days where, yeah, people were taking steroids, but you had to be in the know to find out where to get them and how to take them and all that. So I didn't know anything about it, never had met anybody who had taken it. I said, Nina, what's the big difference on being on EPO? And she goes, Rob, she says, the most amazing thing on EPO is you can smash yourself and come back tomorrow morning and feel like you didn't do anything yesterday. Now you think about that from a psychological performance output. Think about Logan. He goes out, puts a big day on the bike. It may take a day or two to fully recover from that. Well, can you imagine? You could increase your output by 10 to 12% and then do that day over day over day. So now you've got this huge performance base, not to mention the confidence that you take to the races. You know that you pretty much can go right to near wide open and then just hang out there all day long, because the oxygen carrying capacity is enormously improved. So you never get tired. So people say, like, there's been some interviews where people are like, there's not EPO in our sport. There's no room for it. You're an idiot. You're just a freaking idiot. Because if you have warm blood going through your body and you breathe oxygen, EPO is a game changer. It is what it is. Now, if you look at what you mentioned, Procrit, that was the first not over the counter, but that was the first Procrit was created for people who are suffering from cancer going through chemo.
Yeah.
And you take Procrit to increase the red blood cell count. So athletes are like, red blood cells, more oxygen, sign me up, right? And that's how it became very popular. But the point is when somebody says that EPO will not increase your performance, that's a very naive statement. That's more of a deflective type of a response. If someone says EPO is not in our sport, you're saying it's not because you clearly know it is.
Definitely not ostracizing anybody.
Yep.
We're just given the facts on something where it's a big advantage, because I think the big difference here in our sport is it's not all about data numbers as far as can you run a 5K in 15 minutes or something. There's a lot to be said as how big are your balls to be able to seat bounce quad this triple or go through these whoops wide open. And, there's a big talent aspect, which I think almost is more important than the fitness aspect, because you could be the fittest guy in the world, but if you're too scared to hit a set of whoops, you're not going to go anywhere, right?
Yeah.
But if you mix both of those, well, now you have a supreme athlete. And on that side note, Logan, do you mind just a quick synopsis on what is your pre-training camp ritual to get ready for Supercross, or do you just hit the pavement hard every day, every weekend between races, kind of a thing? Like, what does your prep look like?
Yeah. First off, I got to give my motor builder a plug. He's listening in right now, and he just shot me a text. Jesse Williams, Williams Motorworks. He's based out of Wisconsin. He does my motors, and he also does PRMX's motors. He's doing
yeah, no, we know his stuff. It's good stuff. But
right.
Sorry, continue.
There. But yeah, I usually get down to Florida beginning of October, so about 3 months or so. My trainer, Daniel Laub, he's based out of California. He gets me set up on like a riding program and gym program, cycling, and all that jazz. My riding days are pretty strenuous, so I'm not doing a ton off the bike other than riding days, because this season I was probably riding 3 days minimum, 4 days usually, 4 days, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And just some light stuff in between there, but riding was definitely key for me.
Where did you ride when you were in Florida, Logan?
I rode at WW Ranch. They just built
Okay.
cross tracks there, and then Waldo Motorsports, whatever.
Yep, that's a big romping grounds for Ian Treadle when I was working with him on Super Minis. Yeah, Waldo's been there almost as long as like Dade City. It's kind of one of those staples in Florida, you know, or Orlando MX. A lot of people know it as Bithlo. So yeah, it's cool to hear you're down there.
They just got a new owner out there too, and he's doing an amazing job putting some money into there and the tracks.
Well, the next time you come back, let me know, because I'm right in Lake Mary. I'm right in between Daytona and Orlando, so I was right in your neck of the woods.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, not far.
No, so when you come to Daytona next year, if you need a place to stay, I'm literally 20 minutes down the road, closer to Orlando. So
sweet.
We tried getting Johnny to come down, but he decided to try to move and get his wife through college or through med school, and he's a little busy.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's a whole thing, dude. I totally would go through all the pain and torture of racing again, and if it was that or med school, it would definitely be let's go. Because med school, that shit, I understand now why doctors have got like one of the highest suicide rates in the country. And I understand why they work 80 hours a week is because in order to get through med school, you're doing 80 hours a week, but you're not getting paid. So after 4 years of brainwashing of doing that, then you transition into working. That's just your new normal, that you're used to doing that. And now you're getting paid. So you're like, hey, I'm just going to continue to do this. So yeah, doctors have no sense of work-life balance.
But think about how scary that is though, Johnny. You've got somebody who's a physician who's exhausted physically and mentally. And then can you imagine if every day Logan, right, goes out and puts an 18-hour day in, using his brain, working on his team, working on his sponsors, no time to sleep, right? He gets 6-7 hours. That's it. He's back to full fitness in the morning, straight back to the team, go, 18 hours a day, but 7 days a week for literally 4.5, 5 years. But I always say this, like with our military personnel, they're let's say a flight, we just had the air show here this past weekend. I think the value of, there was an F-15 that was here that's like $150 million per plane. And you look at this military personnel, they're not eating the best of foods. They're tired. They're on the go all the time. And I'm like, how do we take the smartest people with the most expensive equipment and we have them in a mode of being physically and mentally exhausted all the time? As a physiologist, I'm just like, that makes no sense. It's counterintuitive. Just like with Paige being a physician, it's like, man, they should work like 4.5, 5 hours a day and that's it, so that they're always on their A game to do what they do. Instead, they're freaking redlining. I have utmost respect for everybody that does that, because unfortunately it catches up to you.
It's a giant problem. It's
unbelievable.
A giant problem. But again, it's the transparency thing with this. And, as far as the whole show, we haven't talked about Supercross yet. So Logan, I want to know
because Logan's a legend. We want to know about Logan.
No, I know.
What's so cool about the show. Logan.
It's been awesome. Because I've got actually quite a bit more questions that I'd like to ask you, Logan. But as far as All right. Well, we talked about your training program. When are you actually officially wanting to come back? You know, you said that this was supposed to be 6 to 8 weeks, but now are you looking for 2025 Supercross?
Yeah, I think that's the plan. I reached out to all my sponsors and kind of let them know Supercross probably isn't realistic. I don't want to come back too soon. I raced Supercross in 2017, got hurt at like the second round, broke my wrist, came back way too soon, and ultimately caused me to crash. And I got rods in my back now. So that's something I do not want to do. I didn't want to come back too soon and put in subpar performances or potentially get hurt. I came into the Supercross season more prepared than I ever have in my entire life. So I wanted to come out if I knew I was going to be ready, but I'm not. I mean, I rode yesterday and I don't know, maybe 60, 70%. Like, I'm still so timid. Like, I am fully cleared to ride, but it is still definitely hurting a little bit, and I'm definitely scared to dab it. It's just mental. I know it's going to be fine, but you know, I mean, we all ride dirt bikes, right? When you're hurt, you get spooked a little bit. So yeah, I think the plan is 2025 Supercross. There's like some local fair races around here that I'll hit, little money races. But yeah, other than that, 2025.
Heck yeah, that's going to give you plenty of time. On that segue, do you think Tomac came back too early with his injury with the Achilles tear?
Do I? I don't think so. I don't know. I think he came out swinging. He's doing a lot better than I thought he would do, honestly.
Do you think he's 100%?
I think some races he is. I feel like, I don't know. I'm a big fan of Tomac, but Tomac's always Tomac. He'll go out there and he'll win, and the next race he'll go get 7th. I don't know.
My point is just like, are we seeing the best Tomac? And is it just the field? We've got so many good riders as of right now that beast mode just isn't quite cutting it to make the huge gap, where now it's got to be beast mode plus a little bit of luck in order for him to beat guys like the likes of Jet.
I think so. Man, Jet is unbelievable to watch ride, isn't he? Like, he looks like he's on a Sunday cruise, and you watch Tomac, he's full beast mode, and Jet's catching him. I'm like, dude, how? He's so good at, I feel like, rolling his corners and just carrying roll speed everywhere. And yeah, the kid's unbelievable. Makes it look so easy.
Yeah, Tomac's approach, it definitely looks like the shotgun. Like, I'm just going to rail the clutch and just come out accelerating. Like, honestly, I don't know his forearm strengths. Tomac has got to be able to squat 500 pounds for how hard that motorcycle pulls him constantly, where just like what you said, Jet seems like he's riding in a higher gear and just kind of raw, but yet he's catching Tomac.
You can hear Tomac coming out of those corners from a mile away. He's got to go through every time he rides that bike.
Okay, well, Cooper Webb, does he win the championship? Does he beat Jet?
I want to say yes because I'm a Coop fan, but it's hard not to bet against the fastest guy. I don't know. I would love to see Webb win, but I think if I had to put my money on somebody, I think I'd go Jet. Last week was pretty dominant.
Was kind of a stamp. Last week, Cooper didn't even do some of the rhythms where he wasn't tripling into the whoops, and
yeah,
he wasn't willing to risk it. And we talked a little bit off air here about Nashville as far as why that track last weekend just seems as if it's cursed that so many guys went down, because the track looked fairly easy.
Yeah. I have literally no idea. It's weird. Yeah, it's exactly what I said. I thought the track seemed easy, but yeah, there's definitely something going on in Nashville.
I think next year Mitch Payton will not go to Nashville. He will conveniently, the truck will break down and they will not make it to Nashville next year, because at least he'd only go down 25 points instead of grenading his entire team.
Do you guys think that pro circuit bike is more competitive than it's been before?
Absolutely.
Because it seems as if right around the Geico era, the pro circuit guys were the cream of the crop. And then it seemed like, boom, here comes these star bikes all of a sudden. And so then pro circuit just kind of fell back to like 3rd or 4th team, and they've never really officially recovered since then.
Logan, with you being a racer and in the paddock all the time, you know, we heard last year, it seemed like around the midsummer time, Johnny, correct me if you disagree, we kept hearing rumblings that PC had found what was missing, all of a sudden the bikes were starting to be competitive, what would that be?
I listened to Paul quite a bit, and I swear he said something about like an air boot. I don't know,
Okay.
that might be wrong, but that's something I heard. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but
Think about how powerful that is. It's not like it's some multi-million-dollar piece of equipment. It's the configuration of funneling air in or whatever. That's where I just get absolutely mesmerized. I've got my co-host on the amateur development show, Derek Harris, and Johnny. You've had Derek on the show. He's
No,
just a
super
freaking
smart
walking
guy. Super
genius.
smart
Yeah.
guy.
And it's like, adjust this by 2 millimeters and change the angle of that by 1 millimeter, and you'll get, X amount on it. I'm like, what? Like, I would have never, I don't know about you guys, but not being an engineer, I'm thinking it's got to be something grandiose. And it's usually some minute little thing that makes such a difference. But Johnny, to your point, it's like whatever they found last summer, it's been a game changer. On top of the fact that I think that patent with Star, since that one was up at the end of last year, you've seen the parity of the bikes become much tighter. So I think it's cool. It's a good time to be watching races. That's for sure.
Well, I've heard all sorts of stuff. Like the ECUs are definitely the most valuable thing on a dirt bike, but those air boxes, some of them are more of on the lines of like street bike air boxes where you can't get them. And well, okay, two kind of like final questions here. Logan, do you feel as if the privateers are a dying breed in the sport? And I can go a little bit more here. I'll give you a little bit more context. My point is, it's so much harder to get your pro license than what it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you damn near just had to email AMA and have somebody vouch for you, and you could get your Supercross and motocross license. Then it kind of turned into, hey, you got to go through some of the amateur nationals, and then if you made it to Loretta, boom, here it is, or get like 75 pro-am points, which is still valid for motocross.
That's how I did.
Yeah, I got the 75 pro points too, but that's in a calendar year that they don't roll over. But now you've got the compines that kind of help, and the compines are invite only, where you basically have to be on a factory team. In order to kind of get on a factory team, you got to do well in Loretta's, right? So there's another wall there. And then in Supercross, it's all the kind of road to Supercross stuff with these futures races, which again, invite only factory kids are getting invited to it. So in order to get your Supercross license, you already have to somewhat be a factory kid.
It's yeah, it seems like it's a bit of a shit show. Let's go back to your original question. I mean, no, I don't think privateers are dying. I think I don't know. I mean, I wasn't around back when you were pro and stuff like that, but no, I think privateers bring a lot to the sport. I mean, obviously, I think Feld will go racing with or without privateers. I mean, that's not how they make their money, but I don't know. I'm here for the privateers. They're all my boys. We're all just like a big family at the race. If anybody needs anything, I don't know. I don't want to see the privateers go. They're all my boys.
Okay. All right. Well, that was a very Donald Trump answer to it. Cause no, I'm a huge supporter of privateers, because without the privateers, there is no racing. There is no racing, because the factory teams, they're not paying for products or whatever. It's guys like you, me, and Coach and their families that are like, okay, we're going to go spend $900 this weekend on Dunlop tires and all gear. We're going to get sponsored and get 40% off kind of a thing. And we're going to spend 40 grand a year to go racing. And my point is I am foreshadowing that, like, especially in Supercross, that 5 years from now, if we continue along the lines of you're only able to get your pro license through the futures, well, the guys that are in the futures are all factory guys. So you can just see the trickling out.
Yeah, possibly. Why is that like a invite only thing? I mean, if kids are fast and they want to try to get the points, I think chance to. I mean, especially at the combines. I mean, there's 40 gates. I guess I understand it. A Supercross, there's not as many gates, but I mean, there's maybe 20 guys that show up at a combine. When there's a lot of fast kids out there that should be able to race those.
Well, you got to remember, though, the combine is going to be outdoor motocross. Futures is going to be Supercross. And on the Supercross side of things, because to your point, Logan, there's only 22 gates on there, right? It's going to be whoever's on the development program for these various factory programs. That's the only people that are going to be there. And then if one of them can't make it for whatever reason, then it's who you know, what you know, and who's willing to pay to play. That's just the reality. All you got to do is look at the entry list. If you look at the people last year that were in the futures, those are the same riders. If they weren't already on a factory program, a majority of the kids that were invited were on a pay-to-play program somewhere else. See how that kind of trickles down?
Yeah.
When you go to the combine outdoors, that's going to be, all right, 20 spots are going to be of the quote-unquote factory or on that vertical of factory riders, or on the amateur going to factor or amateur going to pro, excuse me. Then it's what you know and who you know. Tim Cotter is going to be very big on who gets into that combine, because that's a big ego thing, right? That's Tim Cotter's little baby. He's always been into college. He wants to see the combine be what it is in the football world. It'll never be that, because it's manipulated and massaged by, if you want to get into the combine, you better have good relationships with Tim Cotter or you're not going to get in, unfortunately. That's just the reality of it.
Well, couldn't you get, like, you just show up in the B class and you're top 5?
But what you're doing, Johnny, is if you put together a qualifying, all right, if you're a top 5 guy in the B class, you should be eligible. Then what you've done is you've taken the power and the control out of who's going to be in there away, and they're not going to allow that. That's a power play right there. We're going to control who shows up on that gate. You're going to go through us to get on that gate. Because to Logan's exact point, there's a lot of good riders out there that are not racing on the combines. That doesn't make any sense. It should be based on your points or where you're at, capabilities, or whatever it may be. Top 10 at Loretta's last year, you should be eligible for all combines. And then let it be a trickle down. You guys have till this date to register. If you don't, then we'll start to let it go down. But if you're top 10 in the previous years, let's say Schoolboy 2, 250B, whatever classes, Logan, I don't know, I can't remember all the classes that would be eligible. There's so many classes now. But let's just say, to your point, Johnny, 250B. If you got top 10 at Loretta's the year before, then you are automatically qualified for any and all combines, but you have this date to register. And if you don't, then we're going to start opening it up to maybe the 11 through 20. And then if that doesn't, go through the top 40 at Loretta's, let them fill in, because you're already one of the fastest riders in the country. Let the combine be those guys, because that's what they promote it as. We're here to try to highlight the next group.
Your pro license is
Say it again, Johnny.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you. It's just essentially making it harder to get your pro license. And again, that's why
it's all about power. It's all about power and control. So if we can throttle who comes in, it goes back to, like you were saying, we should just have factory riders only. Let that be its own, like a Formula One. This is your premier. This is only factory riders. Then let the privateers come in and have their own race. And man, we've got one of them with us today. Can you imagine if you had 22? That'd be incredible.
That's where I see the sport going. Is definitely there's a third class, which is somewhat of. Yeah, that's I want to say sister series, but not a sister series, but something that's built just for the privateers that arguably, I feel like let's take away the purse from the supercross and motocrosses, have that be the factory guys, because they even make their money from the manufacturers, and the sponsors. They don't make money from the purse. The purse is just like, okay, sweet, I'm going to go put it on black this weekend because it's not that much, and just take that whole what is it, $250,000 a week for a supercross, I think, combined between 250s and 450s. And then I think for outdoor motocross, it's something like $150,000 for everyone per race. But just move all that money and give it to a new class that's privateers, where if you've got any sort of a semi involved, you're not eligible to race this. And boom.
What would be the bike size, and how would the qualification of that third class go, in your opinion, Johnny?
Well, put me on the spot. I mean, I would say let's start with stock bikes for one.
250 or 450?
Let's have an open class. Whatever.
That's what I was wondering.
Whatever you want to do. A 350, a 250, a 125, a 250F. Let everyone play that class, but it just has to be fairly stock to keep the wheels turning of people buying bikes and trying to go racing and that sort of thing. But then you have guys like the Logans and the Kevin Moranzes that are somewhat winning the class, and they're making a living doing it because, you know, $5,000 a weekend for Logan, as far as purse money, that's decent. That's decent money. That's going to keep you racing, because half of that money was spent going to that race. So now there's 2,500 that pays for your mortgage in one weekend. Boom. Now you go to the other one. You're good. And
But then you can add another layer though, Johnny. If Logan could be out there every Saturday night, because like you said, he's one of the top 5 guys. Now he's getting more exposure for his sponsors. He's probably going to get more sponsors because of the additional exposure. So it's a win-win.
And then
Logan's making $5,000 on a purse plus more
eventually,
sponsorship exposure. I'm sorry, Johnny, go ahead.
no, sorry. I'm interrupting you, dude.
No, go for it.
Oh, I just thinking then there's some sort of an NFL draft for these guys that are in this class. Like, yeah, you still have the futures and the combines, the guys that are already on there, but you know, there should be a collective deal between the teams where they pick 2 or 3 of the guys every year from this sister series that's the privateer class to come up and be, you know, B riders on the teams. I think would be fantastic for the sport as far as growing a corporation and whatnot. But think
about how smart that is. Think about how smart that is. We've got AP's bike that's sitting there idle. Let's say that Logan wasn't jacked up, and let's say hypothetically he rode KTM's instead of Cowie's. Why would we let that bike continue to sit there? The bike's not going around the track. It's getting no TV time. And Red Bull and all the sponsors associated with that team, where would you get that B rider? Well, you'd pick Logan up from. It makes so much sense. In fact, it makes so much sense it'll never happen.
Are you but saying like have a completely different series on a completely different day and everything, or just have another class and then same night of racing as the factory guys?
Have a same night as the factory guys. You know,
like,
maybe
like an outlaw class. I don't know, something like that. Yeah. Factory to say there's not an East and a West 250 class. Factory guys, factory 450 guys, and then our class.
Yep, exactly. Because now you've got a full stadium. You've got full TV coverage, and instead of you going and trying, like you started today's show by saying how deep the 450 class is. If you go and you look at every one of those factory riders, every single one of them won a 250 championship. We've never seen that before, ever. Yeah. And then you look at how many people that are factory riders, how many 450 premier class wins there are. So if you just had nothing but a factory gate of 450s, a factory gate, and I know someone was saying there'd only be 12 bikes. Well, bump it up to where maybe there's 2 or 3, maybe there's 3 bikes per color. It'd be nice if Suzuki got back in the game. We've got Ducati, we've got Triumph coming, right? Or here rather. And then for someone like yourself, it's like, okay, well now you're stamping, let's just call it class. I like what you said. Let's call it the outlaw class, right? Now, weekend and weekend, your top 3 guy. Well, when that opportunity comes, AP is out. Again, I'm going to go back to assume you're riding KTM and not Cowie. Well, where's KTM going to look? Oh, that Logan guy's just killing it. Let's give him a chance. Bring him out, fly him out. Let's get him acclimated to the bike. Unlike, was it Morantz that got that one weekend fill in for Butler Brothers? And he's, it's like riding a pogo stick. It's like riding your aunt's, skateboard.
Coach, that's the problem, is like if you look at other bigger sports like F1, not saying that you should we should totally emulate that, but you should take the things that are working correctly and then you can modify and innovate from the other stuff. But they only have 2 riders per team over there. But if you only had a realm of 15 riders on Supercross, it would make for some good racing. There wouldn't be guys getting lapped. Everyone would be somewhat racing. You could have different winners every weekend, kind of a thing, and potentially moving all the purse and everything over to another, I want to say, class. Well, now these teams could potentially afford a backup guy that practices on the bike week in and week out, because a lot of privateers, they would rather ride their own bike that they feel comfortable on, because a factory motorcycle, there is so much R&D involved. Yes, it's a better motorcycle, but if you just say, hey, this weekend hop on this bike, you arguably could potentially do worse because it's not set for you. It's set for AC or something. So if you have a guy that is riding week in and week out for the team, one of those guys get hurt, boom, here's your fill-in guy. But then you still have all the privateers that are kind of racing for these fill-in spots to have a contract for a factory team for 2024, 2025 as backup guys. I don't see how that is a bad thing whatsoever. And that's where I would like to see. I'm not talking about unionizing the sport, because whenever you use that word, everyone hates that word. However, it would work better for the privateers. But there is a a middle ground there where, as far as development comes, and you can see some of the changing happening with the combine and the futures, but it's opening up a gap that is going to be need to fill, because the privateers aren't just going to go away.
No,
they're just
and we
simply
don't
not.
want them to. That's the
No.
backbone of our sport. I mean, they're the ones that everybody can relate to. Absolutely, we need those
And
privateers.
Logan, we're coming to an end here, because I know I said we were only going to go for about an hour here, but with this weekend, who you think is going to win in Philly for the 250s and 450s, and then the championship? You pretty much just said Jet is going to win, but what are you thinking about 250s?
I think
Take me on the spot.
I'm gonna go Deegan, and I'm gonna go Tomac. I saw some like clips and pictures. I'm in a group chat with like all the privateer guys, and it looks pretty hard packed. Something that Tomac might be good at, like the Denver Salt Lake-ish style dirt, is kind of what it looks like. So I'll go Tomac and I'll go Deegan. And then for the championship, I'll go Jet and Vial.
Absolutely spot on.
It'd be pretty cool to see Vial win that championship.
Coach got the podium right last week on the 450s.
No, it was, the way that the race worked out. Yeah, I nailed the podium. And ironically, I'm going to go with that exact same podium for this weekend as well, for the exact reasons. Last week, Logan, I said that I thought Jet would win. I thought Tomac would surprise everybody, and I thought Webb would pull in third. Now, obviously, that's what happened, but for exact reasons that you said. And we are starting to see a splintering of the field. First time, what was it, last year, Johnny? By round 2 or 3, we'd already lost 5 riders, it seemed like. Where this year, we're just now seeing
Roczen is definitely doing better, for sure.
Yeah.
Which I like to see the transformation as far as, I would say, that the series, because last year it made for the best motocross season for a privateer, because all the factory guys were out, because 10 or 12 of them were out. But now, okay, you got no, AC still in there, but you've got AP that's out. Sexton was hurt at one point. Kenny's out. Pretty much the most noticeable ones is Kenny and AP right now, but you've got the majority of the still big boys here. And on that note, Logan, what do you feel contributes to that? Do you think it's the 9 whoop deal? No dragon backs? I mean, the track design? What? Honest opinion. You're smiling over there, so I want to know.
I think the 9 whoops thing is stupid, because I'm tall and lanky and I love whoops. I'm good in whoops. I'm fine with the no dragons backs things. I don't think anybody in the paddock likes dragons backs. I just think they're sketchy. But like 2022, the whoops were pretty gnarly, and that was one of my best years I've ever had. So, I mean, selfishly, I'm sure they cause more injuries, but I mean, we're the best guys in the world, right? I mean, we can hit more than 9 whoops that are this big. I think that's something that I think separate the guys a lot, and they're really not this year. It's so easy to drop into the start whoop and go 3-3-3 every single weekend. Like, I don't know.
So you think bring back big whoops?
Yeah.
And 10 to 13 of them.
Sure. 20.
Well, and Johnny, we've heard some scuttlebutt, that why are the whoops going to 9 and why are they small? Well, no one on the KTM likes whoops. So we've seen that and heard that for a couple seasons now, and they've gotten progressively smaller, and now they're being cut down in size. The only thing that I say about the whoops is I would like there to be more. I think that needs to be one of the game changers. We've talked about this before. If you saw a track that was really had big set of whoops, Chad, Ricky, there's the guys that would just blitz the whoops, and it was a game changer. It was something that separated. Now, with that being said, I think there also needs to be some discussion on how they're being formed, because I'm hearing that they're not actually taking the shape that they need to be, so then they break down, and then that's what makes them become sketchy. And obviously, I'm not in the land management side of things, but just listening to the riders, it's like, who's making these and why are they making them in that shape? It's counterintuitive to the way they should be. So bring in
Well,
Jason
dozers
Baker and
versus
let him.
skid, I think most of the time they're made by the dozer, but the
But bring in
more
Jason Baker and just let him be the only guy that makes the whoops because he knows exactly how to do them, right? Let Feld have their guy, their Dirtworks, which they do a great job. My gosh, this year they've done phenomenal with what they had to deal with. But bring in Jason Baker, who knows how to build a pro set of whoops. He's done it for every pro that's ever bought or
Coach,
had a
the thing
track
is
built.
whoops are going to break down and they're going to get
Of
sharper,
course. Yeah.
and then that's when you can jump them. Is when
Yeah,
they're
but why?
brand new.
If
they're
we're going to
real
do any track prep, let Jason Baker keep going in there and let him reshape those up so that when Logan comes out of that corner and sets up for him, he at least that part of the track is predictable. If we're saying it's the most dangerous part of the track, then in between, how long would it take Jason Baker to freshen up? Logan, you know this better than I do. If Jason Baker jumped on a skid steer or whatever, how long would it take for him to freshen those whoops up? 5 minutes, 6 minutes?
I do feel like it takes longer to do whoops than probably anything else. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm here for it. They get pretty sketchy, especially out in the 450B group.
Well, so for me, if that's the most dangerous part of the track, let's work it into the night show where it allows us to be able to freshen those up just for the predictability and the safety of the athletes. So to predict when you hit them, you know what to expect. It's already dangerous enough by lap 3 and 4, but at least you see it naturally degrade.
Yeah.
Versus, like you said, you come out and you're not sure what you're going to get. That's what's causing the high injury rate. Then you take it a step further and you say, okay, now we've got that part worked out. Let's go racing. And then look at right now. We were talking about Vial. I think Vial is going to be the one that reaches up and kind of snatches the championship. And what's that going to do for his momentum and confidence when we go outdoors when we don't have to worry about it?
Well,
Vial's
part of the
gonna be
reason
very
why I
tough
think
out
Vial
there.
has been doing so well this year is just because of that whoop rule.
Exactly.
Because he's been able to.
You guys remember Paris this year? He did
Mhm.
not good there because those whoops were pretty
Big.
dark.
Yep. But that's where you get back into the politics. How much are the OEMs dictating what the track is being fabricated around based on your rider's capabilities? And it's not the first time we've talked about this, but yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation, Logan. It was good to have you on here, dude. And everyone, make sure you go follow Logan in the description below. He's pretty much the privateer superstar. So we want to see him do well in 2025. And I know you have made a fan out of me just with this conversation, because we talked earlier about like what happens on social media versus like what's somebody's actual personality and what they do. And, you know, I kind of was thinking you were somewhat of a kind of a fuckhead that just goofed off kind of a thing, you know, but I still would probably enjoy partying with you, you know, dude. It would probably be.
I still do fuck off a little bit, but
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's why you've had a long career too, because you have fun.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Oh God, what's that saying? All fun and no play makes for a dull boy. Some shit like that. Something like that.
I feel
I
like
don't
You'll
even
get
know.
that.
No Outdoors has kind of helped me get through it a little bit because dude, to be honest, man, after a full Supercross series, I'm pretty burnt out.
Sure.
Like when I get home, like I bought like a little wakeboard boat last year, and like my summertime consists of letting loose and, you know, still do a little bit of training here and there, doing some riding. But coming into this year, I was like, I loved it. Like I loved going to the track every day. Like I loved going on my road bike rides because I just, you know, I was riding like, I don't know, once every couple weeks or so, but I enjoyed being back in the grind because I wasn't as burnt out. But these guys, people don't realize how brutal it is racing the whole Supercross series. I can only imagine doing the whole outdoor series. And then you got the off-season races. These guys don't get more than a couple weeks to chill. And It's unbelievable.
Well, we always say with all of our clients, if you do the season right, you should be happy when it's over, which makes you want to lean into the off season. And if you do the off season right, you'll be leaning into the work that needs to be done for the upcoming season.
Well,
And that's
one of
periodization
the.
at its finest.
Gosh, here I'm trying to end the stream here, but you bring up a good point, Logan and Coach. I've heard it so many times, and I was guilty of this too, is when I got hurt and had to have surgery, it was like, thank God I get a break, right? And the problem is why do you feel like you need to get hurt to take 2 to 3 months off? Like that is a wrong mentality of thinking. You should be able to go have fun and go do other stuff and come back more prepared And
Yeah.
honestly, your body's going to be better. You're not going to have these guys have Epstein-Barr and whatnot, and you're not going to have as big of a burnout. Like, truthfully, I'm even burnt out of making content and not really looking forward for motocross. I haven't even decided if I am even going to cover the motocross stuff, just because it's, it's a constant little
But take it a
grind.
step further though, Johnny. I'm not going to put words in Logan's mouth, and I'm not going to put him on the spot. Let's say he's comfortable if he makes 120 grand a year, 10 grand a month, right? Well, if he can make that in 6 months, then he knows, all right, when I get to the month of May or June, I'm done for the year. I still have acquired enough money that I can still enjoy the rest of the year. Now I can enjoy playing. Well, if you haven't created enough money to cover your expenses for the year, of course you have to keep on the consumption wheel, because you got to go racing to make money. And that's what we've been talking about. If you do it right, if you reverse engineer, what do you need? How quickly can you make the money? And it goes back to periodization. If you do the off season correctly, you're very eager. Logan just articulated it. He looked forward to the work. He looked forward to the sweat equity. But then when you see there's a definitive end of the season, let's say it's May 1st, and then you know that lake and that boat's coming, well, that's what keeps his batteries charged to push through when it gets a little bit raw. Then you've got the perfect. And what's so funny about this, Johnny, is this is what you see in the endurance world. We peak maybe 2 to 3 times a year, always peak at the World Championships. We have a couple of races that are high priority, and the rest are fillers. But not for Logan. Logan's got to be on his A game every Saturday night, come hell or high water. He can't miss it.
There's a book of Habits of Highly Effective People. And what they say you need to be inspired by your work. And once you're, just what Logan was saying is he was inspired. It was easy to wake up and go put in pound out laps and stuff that's arguably hard, right? But as soon as you start feeling this isn't fun anymore, that's when you need to go take a couple months off. And truthfully, inside this book, they talk about guys working 80 hours a week for maybe a month, maybe 3 months, maybe even 6 months. But then boom, turn everything off, and they take a couple months off and just don't do a damn thing. And they're just recovering. And pretty much what happens in that time is almost 100% with their efficiency is they don't take the full 2 months. They come back after like a month and a half or sometimes even 3 weeks, because a new idea pops in and they just get pounding the pavement again. But they take those long breaks. And I think that is one of the reasons where we have seen Ken Roxon's rejuvenated career, is because he was like, fuck this, boom, moves on, starts arguably almost riding more in hindsight as far as doing these races, as far as traveling, World Supercross, the Red Bull Straight Rhythm and whatnot. But it wasn't just the same every day grind. He could take 2 or 3 weeks here and there, and what his performances have been better, even on equipment that arguably kind of sucks.
Put it in mechanical terms. Would you rather go to the starting grid with a bike with 100 hours on it, or a bike that has less than an hour on it? Everybody who's listening to this show, you can feel when your bike starts to get tired. You don't have to look at the hour meter. The hour meter just confirms how you're feeling. And to your point, when Logan's able to recharge his batteries, because the only way you can do it is by balancing the workload to the recovery. We can get into sympathetic, parasympathetic, and get into the entire internals of the body. But you're exactly right. If the body gets a chance to fully recover on a daily basis, you can take on more load. More load is better performance. Better performance is more motivation. Now you've got the dominoes falling forward.
And in here, I will kind of end with this and let you guys comment, and then we'll move on. But I even see it with the viewership in Supercross, is even the viewers, even the fans are kind of like, okay, this is too long of a season. My retention, I'm not going to devote every Saturday for the next 17 Saturdays for this series, right? You need to, that's why, Logan, you probably do it too. You have a limited merch drop, right? Because there's something with human psychology is if it's always available, well, it's going to be there next time. So if we had
Johnny, it's a scarcity principle. You know exactly what it is.
100%. That's why less racing would honestly make this sport more popular, because it's something you're looking forward to.
Not only does it make it more popular from a spectator standpoint, it kind of creates more of a vacuum and a draw to it. But more importantly, we are dealing in a sport where you've got a human being that needs a chance to recover. If you really stop and think about Logan, and again, Logan, I don't want to put words in your mouth. If you look at Logan, it's race Saturday night, travel, try to practice Tuesday, Wednesday, start to recover on Thursday, travel on Friday, race on Saturday, repeat for 13, 16, 17 weeks in a row. Like just walk that through verbally. It's completely crazy to think that an athlete can sustain that week in and week out. And if you don't think it, I had this one guy, he was a real smart aleck. He goes, these pros should be bitching. They only have to race for 28 minutes a weekend. I'm like, okay, fair point. I want you to emulate Logan's schedule for 2 weeks straight and come back and tell me that they've got it easy.
Coach, those people don't even deserve to even have the comment on it, because
Exactly.
the hypocrisy of that is mind blowing.
It is. I mean, drive 12 hours, try to get there, get yourself unpacked, try to race, then try to say goodbye to the weekend, try to get back home, get the bikes clean, try to get not to mention the maintenance on the van and the Sprinter van and everything else. And then try to find a place to practice. Oh, it's raining today. Well, where's Logan going to go? What's he going to do? It just, I think it's such a silly statement.
The days, it's a grind.
Yep.
You got
sorry.
track and
say it again, Logan.
No. Logan, I was telling myself to shut up. I wasn't telling you to shut up.
I'm sorry.
What were you saying, Logan?
Comment. There's you got the guys at the local track too, like the beginners and stuff. They'll go out there and ride for 20 minutes. They're like, oh, you guys only got a 20-minute main event. I can ride for 20 minutes. I'm like, okay, man, it's a little bit different when you're at the fucking heart rate is 205, but
yeah, go try to run a 5-minute mile for
26
miles.
Rob, I actually have a question.
Yes.
Okay, say when I race the Supercross main event, I average 195 for 20 minutes. There is no way in hell I'm going to run a 5K and I can average 195 heart rate. Why is that?
Because the heart rate is going to be dictated by the amount of load on the tissue. And there's no sport in the world that will drive the heart rate higher than a motorcycle, because you have 200 and some odd pounds of wet weight, you have the velocity, and you have what you're offsetting. So for example, if you go to the triathlon world, swim, bike, run, because running is so load bearing, it will always have a higher heart rate than cycling. Cycling will always have a higher heart rate than swimming because of the lack of impact. And so it's a very good observation on your behalf. When you run, you're just taking your body weight and it's absorbing, you're hitting the ground and your body's absorbing it. On the motorcycle, it's push, pull, G out, G force up, G out, down. And that's just going to drive the heart rate to its highest. And that's why when you're looking at your training, you don't want to take your max heart rate from just some random discipline. Your heart rate zones on the motorcycle need to be indigenous to the motorcycle. In any form of cross training, you need to be doing a max heart rate. Johnny is living this on our partnership on the triathlon side as he's training. Each discipline has its own heart rate zones. That's a huge mistake that people make. But yeah, it's a great question. That's why I always say people who ride moto, what they do for cross training, other people think is really serious. Think about the humor in that. Someone's like, oh, I did a 40-mile bike ride today. You're like, I did that plus 320s. Good luck.
To
Go
put
ahead,
it
Johnny.
in comparison, Logan, is like, okay, so you're averaging 195 racing your dirt bike, but if you were to try to do that on a rower or something, you would die, because the amount of effort to try to get there would be equivalent to you possibly trying to do like a 250 heart rate on the dirt bike kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like it wouldn't happen. It just won't happen. So that's where Coach is saying is for riding dirt bikes. Like if you're running or rowing or something, you can be rowing at like 110 heart rate, right? For dirt bikes, your low, almost even zone 1, zone 2 stuff is going to be 140, 150, which is comparing to running, that's like zone 3 and 4 kind of a thing. It's just totally different.
Well, you look at my client, Mike Witowski. He rides for Phoenix Honda in the GNCC side of things. Not only is he holding a heart rate, 185 to 190 for 3 hours, that's the average. He's also burning 11 to 1,300 calories per hour for 3 straight hours. Now, when you understand that your body can only consume 300 to 350 per hour, you see the gap. He's burning over 1,000 per hour. He can only consume 300 per hour. That's why you have to be so good at metabolizing body fat for fuel, because that gap has got to be met somewhere. That's what I love about the two-wheeled world. It's everything that we learn in physiology. It's everything that the endurance world lives on. But you guys, I mean, think about this, Logan. You go out for your bike ride. You've got a pair of shorts, and Johnny just debuted his new team jersey today. I love it. High five, knuckle punch on the team jersey. But you're wearing a set of material that's
too.
Yeah, that material is what, maybe 2 millimeters thick, and it wicks away heat with no problem. Well, imagine when you're on a motorcycle, you've got a 600-degree bike. Every square centimeter of your skin is completely covered. So that means your ability to wick away heat is going to be negatively impacted. Then you put a helmet on top of as you know, you lose heat through your feet and your head. Well, you've got boots and you've got a helmet on. And then you put goggles. Every square centimeter of your face is being blocked, right? Then you jump on a hot bike. Then you take your heart rate to 190 and you hold it for 22 minutes. I don't know why the sport's so difficult. Are you fucking kidding me? It's insane.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Then you have all the injuries and everything. But
yeah,
man,
exactly.
I will say this again. I highly enjoyed this conversation, and Logan, you turned me into a fan, as opposed to just watching your everything going on, to truthfully rooting for you. So I applaud you for that. Is there anything you want to? Sorry, you were cutting out there.
I just said I appreciate you guys reaching out to me, and it's been fun.
Is there anything you want to say? Anybody you want to thank before we end the stream?
Yeah, I mean, mostly just, all my sponsors. You guys all know who you are. I know you guys all got my back. I appreciate you guys a ton, and just OnlyFans, man. They're the backbone of my whole program, man, and I can't thank them enough.
It's been awesome to have you, man.
Coach has a new podcast every month. He's got a amateur podcast where he's talking about amateur racing, and then for vet guys as well, getting into racing, totally different realms of stuff. I want you to go check that out. His link is in the description too. Logan, can I get you to prop?
Oh, jeez.
It's something stupid, but here we go. Let's just drop the hammer.
Jeez. Nice.